Keep up to date everywhere. News Talk 820 WBAP.
In the WBAP newsroom.
Edwin Walker joins us from U.S. Law Shield. This is a story out of Washington State. It's going to come up in the month of January. A proposed law that's going to work its way through the state legislature that I know the NFL's got their eye on. And Edwin, when I look at this at first glance, it looks like folks who have a concealed carry license, or in this state, or just an open carry license, they would be able to take their handgun into an NFL stadium. Is that right?
Well, yes, the proposal, in which most reports seem to overlook the fact that it only applies to license holders. If somebody is a license holder, then and keep in mind this is in Washington State, and each state gets to make their own rules about what places are prohibited to license holders carrying handguns. And in Washington, there are 3 legislators who believe that sports stadiums ought to be taken off that list. And so this law change, if it passed, which, you know, Washington is a very liberal state, it's highly doubtful it will pass.
Right.
But in the event it does, it will simply take sports stadiums off of the list of prohibited places.
And the NFL now, the NFL currently has a policy against this, right? Whose policy would win out here?
Well, it would be very interesting because whenever license holders are told you can't bring your handgun into these locations, of course the threat is criminal prosecution. And since the NFL can't prosecute anybody, it would be my assumption that the state would ultimately win out, because if a license holder is saying, look, you know, the worst that's going to happen to me is that I get kicked out of the game, and then if the state writes the law properly that says that in the event somebody does get kicked out of the game, that they would have a claim for damages against the party that kicked them out, then, you know, the NFL would have to fight that on a separate battle. But license holders are overly concerned, their overarching concern is that they won't be violating the law, that they won't be criminally prosecuted.
As a business, and the NFL's a business, would they not have the right to put up, say, the 30-06 sign, which says, as a business, they can prohibit people, even licensed gun owners, to bring it inside their establishment?
Yes, private property owners do, in most states, private property owners do retain the right to exclude license holders who are carrying their handguns. Here in Texas, it is unique in that we have very strict standards about notification of that ability. The 30-06 sign, as you referenced, and also now with regard to open carry, the 30-07 sign, most states don't. Most states just say, look, if a private property owner even just puts up a no-gun sign, that's enough to keep people out. And most states respect that. What is happening here, though, is that if you what the state of Washington is recognizing is that these are private entities. The NFL is a private entity. However, they are very dependent upon playing in a public building. You know, the NFL doesn't own Safeco Stadium or whatever their stadium.
CenturyLink, yeah.
CenturyLink Stadium. The NFL doesn't own that. The people of the city of Seattle or Olympia County or wherever it occurs, they're the ones that own it. And so we have a very similar process here. You know, a lot of private entities will occupy public lands, and the law says is that you can't prohibit a license holder from bringing his handgun onto public lands. There are just a very, very, very few publicly owned areas where license holders aren't allowed to bring their guns.
Okay, this is a bill that's going to start in January, working its way through the Washington legislature. Here in the state of Texas, though, obviously we don't have concealed carry. How could a bill like this begin here in the state of Texas, and what would it look like, Edwin?
Well, I think that's the fear. At least some of the news reports I read is that there's very little hope that this will get passed in Washington State. However, what they're claiming is that this will give the idea to red states, of which Texas is one of the reddest of red states. And we do love the Second Amendment and, by extension, the right to carry a handgun for license holders. And so this may be an area that is examined by the legislature coming up. That this story just happens to fall during the pre-filing period of the Texas 2017 legislative session. there will be, I'm sure that there will be bills that will re-examine areas that are currently off limits to license holders, and going into professional sporting events, which here in Texas we prohibit the event, not the geographic location, and so it is illegal for a license holder to carry their handgun either concealed or openly into a professional sporting event, but not necessarily the stadium. And so that means that, say, if you're going to a concert at Cowboy Stadium, you could carry at the concert, but you could not carry at a Dallas Cowboy game.
Gotcha. But you can take one to the state fair.
Is it not illegal to take a gun into where alcohol is being served or sold in some states? It is only illegal in
the state of Texas for a license holder. Now, it is illegal for somebody who does not have a license to go into any location that sells alcohol, whether on premises or off premises for consumption. But here in Texas, it is only illegal for a license holder to carry their concealed handgun into a premises that receives 51% or more of its revenue from the sale of alcohol for consumption on the premises. So license holder.
So a bar, not a Costco,
Correct.
Gotcha. Edwin Walker.
Not going to a bar.
Yeah, U.S. Law Shield. Thanks for the insight on this. We'll keep track of this. And the reason why he's saying in the state of Washington it more than likely won't pass, the way their legislature's made up, it's a little goofy there. Washington, the House of Representatives has 98 members, of which 50 are Democrats. Okay, so they have a small majority in the House. But in the Senate, it's one of the few states that allows this to happen. They have a majority coalition caucus. Okay, so there are 49 members of the Washington Senate, but in this, 24 are Democrats, 25 are in this majority coalition caucus. So you've got Republicans gathered with a couple of independents and 2 Democrats who left their caucus, who formed the this doesn't happen very. It's a fun thing to follow, and they are the majority, but they're in the minority. Does that make sense? Republicans are in the minority.
Yes.
There's fewer Republicans than Democrats in the Senate there in Washington.
Yes.
But they're in the majority because they caucused with a couple of guys. They roped them in, and now they get things done. So who knows if it'll get passed.
Well, we'll see.